If your organization has multiple Azure Active Directory tenants, or even if you only have one, tenant isolation is an important part of your Power Platform security. It has a ton of power with the flip of a single switch, and Mihaela shows how it works today on PowerCat Live. Welcome to PowerCat Live. My name is Phil Topnis from the PowerCat team, and today we're here with Mihaela Blendea from the Power Platform team. Hey, Mihaela.
Hey, Phil. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
Of course. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about tenant isolation. It's been a long time coming, but before we get there, talk a little bit about your role and how you got to this job.
Yeah, of course. I'm actually relatively new to Power Platform. I joined the group less than a year ago. It seems ages now, but
yeah,
it's
right.
not even been
it was
a
fast.
year. I'm working on Power Platform governance features, like enterprise promises, data policies, of course, tenant isolation that we're going to talk about today, and other capabilities. I'm not new to Microsoft, though. I've been in SQL Server for about 13 years and working on various SQL-related products like SQL Server, Azure SQL, and SQL on Linux. And then I decided I need another challenge, and I ended up here.
You decided where's the hot new stuff happening, and you found Power Platform.
Exactly.
So talk about tenant isolation then. What is this?
This capability has been in a gated form of public preview since last year, but we have some excited updates to share. So that's why I'm here today. And we're going to start by showing you how it actually works, because there is no better way to showcase a capability than actually seeing it in action. So we'll start in Power Platform Admin Center. You've seen that the feature is actually off. We created both in this main production tenant, as well as in the test tenant, a couple of flows that are connecting to data sources that are hosted in this new tenant that they joined through the acquisition. So now, because there are no restrictions in place, tenant isolation, as you've seen, is off. These two flows are going to run just fine. There are no restrictions. So you see that in one of the tenants, it's succeeded. And similarly, we're seeing that in the test tenant, the same way, it's just going to pass just fine.
And this would be like the situation today then, right? Where we don't have any tenant isolation.
So they didn't enforce it at all. Now, going back to Power Platform Admin Center, we are going to flip the tenant isolation switch on. So now once tenant isolation feature is on, all the inbound connections to the tenant from external tenants, as well as outbound connection from this tenant to other tenants, are blocked by Power Platform, even if the user is presenting valid AAD credentials. So now both flows, we're going to see that they are failing with a tenant isolation error as expected.
Now, these were running before. When I turn on tenant isolation, is there a delay before it takes effect?
There is a small delay until all the rules related to tenant isolation, the configuration policies, replicated to all clouds. But definitely, keep that in mind when you first set it up. But it's definitely a negligible delay when you think about it. This is a one and done kind of setup. It's not something that you flip on and off. But I do want to show another aspect of tenant isolation that what you see now on the screen, the fact that admins have the options to specify an explicit list of exceptions and allow tenants to either connect to or from this target tenant. So we went back to Power Platform Admin Center in the new tenant, and we see now that we added a new rule using the new tenant rule control to allow this main production tenant to establish inbound connection to the newly acquired tenant. So basically, I have a flow running in my main production tenant that is connecting to a data source that is hosted by this tenant that I recently acquired. And now, since I added this exception, the flow started to succeed. The old tenant, like the test tenant, continues to have the flow failing because I didn't add an exception there as well. So this is in a nutshell the tenant isolation capability in action.
So Azure Active Directory has a related feature for tenant isolation. How is the Power Platform feature different?
Yeah, you're bringing up a good point there, Phil. And before going into the details about how this capability is enabled in Power Platform, I want to refer everyone to the similar capability that exists indeed in Azure. It is called AAD-based tenant restriction. And with this feature, organizations can control access to SaaS cloud applications, like the ones they build in Power Platform, based on the Azure AD tenant the applications use for single sign-on. Now, while this exists in AAD, and it is applicable to services accessed through Power Platform connectors as well, it is helpful in governance scenarios related to Power Platform. We did get feedback from customers that want this ability to enforce tenant isolation only within the Power Platform connections without impacting cross-tenant access to these services outside of Power Platform. So, and one more important distinction is that organizations are looking for ways to restrict access for their users to other tenants. So what you've seen earlier called outbound connections using Power Platform, for which AAD-based tenant restrictions are not sufficient. So it's only within the Power Platform tenant isolation that you have this capability to do both inbound and outbound, or both in the same time.
And then we've got other ways of controlling access to Power Apps, like conditional access. How is this capability different than conditional access?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The way I see things is that these capabilities are not exclusive and they're not overlapping. They actually work together. So conditional access is evaluated during connection authentication, and it enables users to limit, for example, which resource can be accessed and under what condition. Like it's only
super fine grained
networks, or only if they use two-factor authentication.
Right.
While with tenant isolation, you can set policies with regard to what tenants those end users are connecting from or to, which is an evaluation that is performed post-connection authentication. So you need both.
Yeah, interesting. And now you mentioned connections and how this will prevent connections. Data loss prevention is one way that people also prevent connectors from being used. How should people think about data loss prevention and tenant isolation differently?
So one important distinction is tenant isolation is only comes into play when it's you're using AAD-based authentication in a cross-tenant connection. Okay. So that's something that it's different than the data loss prevention, which supports other type of authentication, and it's not necessarily a cross-tenant. Like once you block a connector, it's blocked within or across tenants. Yeah.
And Mihaela, you mentioned at the top that this has been around for a while, although in a different format. What's new, and why are we talking about this right now?
That is right, Phil. So we rolled out new enhancements regarding tenant isolation that aim to ease admins' experience when using the feature. Tenant isolation makes it easy for administrators to ensure that connectors used in apps and flows can be used in a safe and secure way within the tenant, while minimizing the risk of data exfiltration outside of the tenant. So what we've done with these recent enhancements, we've added new experiences on top of that. Now admins can self-service, configuring the feature. Until now, they would have to call CSS to actually for the feature to be enabled for them. And secondly, we enable the functionality to cover new cross-cloud use cases. This I don't know if you noticed in the demo that I showed, we're actually using a mix of public and GCC cloud setup. Right. This was a gap that many of our customers called out during the preview.
That's super valuable. Nice to have that at the time you're talking about going to GA with this. So let's talk about what's coming next.
Yes, we are very excited to see that since the feature configuration became self-service, so many customers are following the best practice to turn it on to further isolate their resources. We are, of course, looking for feedback during the public preview and then GA in a few months. And one thing that I want to highlight that we're looking into is to provide more visibility to Power Platform admins on what exactly are the tenants that are involved in cross-tenant connections. There are many customers that already have this type of cross-tenant connections, and they don't have the feature on. And once they decide to have it configured, they don't know what's going to break, right? So we want to provide them the visibility in what existing connections are out there so they can audit them and either block or allow them.
Yeah. Has someone seen this and they want to give it a shot? Where do they go to try it out?
Yes, with the most recent release, we actually updated our documentation. So there are a lot more details that we could cover today in our public docs.
So the link's in the description. Give this a shot. It's a really powerful feature. Mihaela, thanks so much for taking the time to show it.
Oh, thank you for having me. It has fun.
Now, before you go, we are making new videos every week. Click this Microsoft logo to subscribe and you'll be the first to see them. And look over here for a couple of videos that can make you a Power Platform expert.